Now, you might have missed the news yesterday that the government plans to press ahead with the introduction of a new contract for junior doctors, despite a vote against it by members of the BMA. 58% of junior doctors and medical students voted against the new contract, despite it being recommended to them by the BMA. Well, joining us now is Dr. Bob Gill, who's a GP and a member of the National Health Action Party. Welcome to you, Dr. Gill. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So, Jeremy Hunt says he's going to press ahead with imposing this contract, despite doctors voting against it. He says that this was the deal that the BMA had negotiated and approved, and he says that the NHS needs certainty. So do you understand his reasons for going ahead?
I do understand his reasons for going ahead, but they don't match the rhetoric. The reason he is going ahead, he wants to force a contract on junior doctors. He's coercing doctors into a contract which actually removes employment protection from them. This is not a contract with the NHS. It's not defined who the employer is within the contract. And it's a contract that actually allows trusts to overwork doctors with little or no accountability, because it's actually removed the stiff financial penalties that boards faced if they overworked doctors. So it's removing protection. It's actually creating an incentive for trusts to overwork doctors, and it's removing protection on the same time.
Yes, so, and your point of view will chime with the 58% who voted against this contract. However, what steps could doctors take now to try to block this contract? Do you think that strike action is once again likely to rear its head?
Well, I think junior doctors have done the right thing. They've seen through some of the traps that have been set up in this contract. What the patients and the public do not want is tired doctors, because tired doctors make mistakes, and this contract sets up for that. So we need to educate ourselves and the public as to the threats hidden within this contract. Industrial action, I'm sure, is on the table. We also need to look at other possible action which doesn't affect patient care. For example, stopping doing non-essential bureaucracy, which is part of the privatisation that this government is setting up. So there are many ways to explore this, but certainly there is, in my mind, disappointment in terms of what the BMA have presented to members. In fact, there's a clause, a Schedule 8, Section 8, page 45 of the contract, which is completely misleading, because if junior doctors raise concerns about patient safety, this contract offers them no protection, because the only body with a long-term oversight of junior doctors, Health Education England, is exempt from whistleblowing law. So this contract is atrocious. Junior doctors have done the right thing to reject it, and we need to think of ways to get this message out to the public.
Well, yes, and clearly you think the contract is really bad for the doctors. You've made that very clear. But when you talk about getting the message out to the public, isn't that message going to be dampened by the fact that the BMA thought it was a good contract? They negotiated some terms that they thought improved it, and they were happy to approve it. So that's going to make life a bit difficult if you're going to try to convince the public, isn't it?
Well, the BMA have been actually shown up with their recommending of this contract. I've referred to the clause already, and I urge people who are watching this programme who are expert in employment contract law to have a look at this contract. And, you know, contact me via Twitter, Dr. Bob Gill on Twitter, and see what they think, because it's an appalling contract. The BMA need to look very carefully at themselves and why they've recommended this contract. It wasn't the original position. The original position from the negotiating committee was to be neutral. But what we actually saw was a roadshow going around the country promoting this contract, which, as I've pointed out, clearly has several fatal flaws which have got nothing to do with pay. They have to do with setting up doctors to be exploited, overworked and dangerous to patients.
Well, yes, and obviously the government argument is very different. They think that it will allow the NHS to succeed and to allow 7-day care for patients. But what is the next step? Is withdrawing services the only answer here? And how could that affect public support in this dispute? They've already seen a number of strikes going on this year. Do you think that the public are behind doctors?
I definitely know the public are behind doctors. My patients tell me every day that the doctors are doing the right thing. They're taking a stand for the NHS. Our government wants to privatise the NHS. They are misleading the public. They're not telling us about their true agenda. This contract allows them to proceed with the privatisation. Doctors' interest and patients' interest are completely aligned. You know, if I was a patient, I wouldn't want to be looked after by a tired doctor who is afraid to speak out when he spots patient safety concerns. And that is what this contract does. It's a very easy message to get across to the public. We might have to do this ourselves, or the BMA need to actually pull their finger out and start representing members properly.
OK, and of course, as you put that argument across, I'm sure the government will be putting an argument across saying that there are plenty of protections for doctors. They believe that it's a good move for them, of course. I'm sure that argument will play out as we go on. Thanks very much indeed for putting across your views, though, Dr. Bob Gill. Thank you.